No charges yet for the man who killed a black homeless person by holding him in a chokehold on the New York City subway on Monday. According to the New York Times, 30-year-old Jordan Neely began harassing other passengers on the F train in a, quote, hostile and erratic manner about how hungry he was when another passenger, a white 24-year-old Marine veteran, restrained him in a chokehold.
Witnesses say two other passengers assisted and held down Neely's arms. Neely struggled in the chokehold for 15 minutes before eventually going still. Paramedics' efforts to revive him were unsuccessful. A medical examiner said Neely died by compression of the neck, or chokehold, and has ruled his death a homicide. The Marine veteran was questioned by police and released that day. CBS reports Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tweeted, "Jordan Neely was murdered. But because Jordan was homeless and crying for food in a time when the city is raising rents and stripping services to militarize itself, while many in the power demonize the poor, the murderer gets protected with passive headlines and no charges. It's disgusting." ABC News reports that according to police sources, Neely had a documented mental health history and had been arrested more than 40 times prior for assault, disorderly conduct, and fare evasion.
And I'm seeing there have been some protests now regarding this death. We don't know if charges are forthcoming. The authorities let the Marine who did the chokehold go after talking to him about the situation. I don't know. What do you think about this?
I've seen the video multiple times. I think it's disgusting. You could tell, as somebody who regularly takes public transit, you could tell from the moment he entered the train that something kind of was a little off. The man was not accosting anybody. He was literally shouting about being hungry. I take the train to D.C. I took the train here almost daily, and you will come across individuals, sometimes more than one in a train car, who respond in the exact same way Jordan Neely did. I think that the onus is on those around them to understand what mental health and mental health crises looks like, but also not to become hypervigilant and abusive towards somebody who is having an attack, somebody who is reacting to the environment around them, somebody whose mental faculties are not all there. This person needed help, needed assistance, not to be held down, choked, and basically killed in the manner that he was. Like, that is really heart-wrenching in many ways, because we know, we just talked about it in a previous segment, we know that mental health crises across this country continue to rise. We don't have enough mental health care. We don't have provisions to provide enough funding for the mental health care we currently have. And if you are homeless, your access to it is quite frankly very limited. Heck, people who have homes sometimes have a very hard time finding the type of care that they need when they have mental health issues. So this is just, it's another nail in the coffin for an American system that was already broken, and watching it live, which is a really hard thing.
Sure. And look, I think it's very tragic that he was killed. I agree that you don't get to respond to someone engaging in hostile and erratic behavior by killing them. I think we need different police practices on, like, what were the police doing? Do they not engage because they've been so stigmatized for trying to take care of these kinds of problems? Because I do think it is a problem, the underlying problem of crazy homeless people screaming at passengers, sometimes getting in their faces. I don't know that that's what he did. He had been, as they mentioned, arrested 40 other times for extreme behavior. Look, I've been in those situations before on the train. You see a crazy person starts yelling at people. It is scary. Sometimes a knife gets produced. It does escalate to violence periodically. So I understand the impulse to try to restrain and control that person. That doesn't mean it was not justified or right to kill him. But I don't accept that. Okay, passengers on subways and trains just have to accept that there's going to be crazy people screaming at them sometimes, and nothing can be done about this. No, but you don't jump in and restrain this person and put them in a chokehold until they die. And I think that to that point, we also have to recognize that when police intervene, police aren't trained in mental health de-escalation. Most of them don't do a really good job of de-escalating people who But neither are random train passengers, right?
Well, exactly.
So somebody's going to have to de-escalate.
Involved.
But somebody has to get involved.
This man was asking for food. It's very different than the example you use of somebody knife wielding or anything else. This man was screaming about being hungry. When you're screaming about being hungry in the richest nation on earth, and you are met with not responsive services, not teams that can assist you, you are met with a chokehold that takes you out within 15 minutes. Nobody tried to stop the guy who was literally killing this man in front of them. There is an extent of lack of empathy, lack of care about people who are mentally ill, but a strong lack of care concern for those who are homeless. We live in a culture where people would rather not see homeless people. They don't want to see the tenement camps. They don't want to see you on public transit. There are cities, including my home city in Chicago, that are creating pathways to remove them from being able to, enter or be around airports or any other public space, restrooms, things like that, because things that are open overnight, they will attempt to seek shelter because they are unhoused. In extremely cold places like Chicago, obviously, you don't want to be on the street.
I totally get that impulse.
We need to answer the homelessness problem. We need to answer the hunger problem instead of demonizing individuals who are going through both, up to and including killing them. Well, because cops started doing it first. When we talk about the arrest that this man had over 40 times, in our jail system, over 70% of those who are jailed are there with mental health issues, are there because they had mental health episodes. So these aren't hardened criminals.
I agree we should address these issues, but I don't think, like letting crazy people occupy public transportation and public spaces and be belligerent and
Robby,
scary and harmful to themselves it's not addressing it.
Robby, where do they go? If you
they should
don't,
go to mental health facilities.
Where are the mental health facilities?
Right, we should put money
right
into
now,
mental health facilities.
They're not just going to pop up overnight. So where do individuals go who have been pushed out of every public space? Mm-hmm. They have no means of shelter. They have no means of feeding themselves.
They can't go on the subway.
They've got to find something. And I get what you're saying. And obviously people are going to, be up in arms about this, but you can only push people out so far. And at the end of the day, yes, it would be great. It would be a utopia if there was enough homeless shelters, if there were provisions where families could stay with their families in homeless shelters instead of being separated, if there were provisions of safety for them while they were there, because that's also an issue. If we did not have a Republican Party that is threatening to cut SNAP food stamp benefits and push people further into hunger, we would be in a different place. Our housing issues are not going to eradicate themselves.
It wasn't just this person was complaining about hunger, but this person was having a mental health episode and needed, look, if it's a matter of more funding for more beds at mental health facilities, fine. My understanding is New York does have a lot of those. I think it's more a question of will to actually require that people who are in the kinds of situations that Jordan Neely was, they actually have to go to those facilities and they have to get treatment. It can't just be do it if you feel like it, and if not, there's the subway. Too many. I don't agree that we have to just say, well, nothing can be done. This is how the subway is now.
No, my argument isn't that nothing can be done. My argument is that what was done should not have been done, and that those who seek to eradicate homeless people from any and all public spaces need to first think about how they got there and ways we can mitigate homelessness and hunger to begin with. Because once we do that, we're not going to have these issues. Once we actually address and fully fund mental health resources and make it where individuals who don't have health insurance or don't have jobs have access to it, because quite frankly, right now, that is not how our system is set up. Mental health care is extremely expensive. A lot of people who have insurance cannot afford it, or the provisions, 3 mental health visits, because in most insurance companies, you have a limit of how many times you can even visit a mental health professional before you pay out of pocket. That's for people who have health insurance. If you're homeless, if you're unemployed, you don't even have that. So we have to be very real about what these people are facing and address that before we start looking down on them. I think that we do a very good job of throwing people under the bus instead of offering any types of real supports.
Okay, true. This person also had been, arrested 40 times? That's a staggering
Police arresting people with mental health issues multiple times is not surprising.
Still out in public life after causing that many disturbances. I think some of them were assaults. That's not a safe situation for the other people on that train, even if he wasn't doing anything violent in that moment.
Again, police officers are not, our criminal justice system isn't equipped for mental health issues. Police officers are not equipped for mental health issues. We see them arrest them early and often instead of them actually seeking care.
But this is an example of people, of non-police, taking matters into their own hands because there's nothing else to be done about it.
No, it's because our culture has also started really supporting vigilante justice, and vigilante justice up to and including.
This person wasn't trying. He wasn't trying to kill this person.
He was trying. This person was not in any threat of physical danger. Jump first, ask questions later, choke somebody out. This is the same type of reaction that we see in police brutality cases. That person definitely deputized himself in his head before jumping on this individual who was a lot smaller body-wise and literally choking them to death.
So do you think there should be charges?
Absolutely.
I don't think
murder is murder.
I don't think so, but we will find out. We'll wait for more news of that and keep covering this story. More Rising after this.